welcome dear students in the new lecture of English. This is Mrunal Malve from Prabhat Kids School. Dear students, we know that we are surrounded with beautiful and pleasant nature and rich and varied flora and fauna. Though we are far away from seashore, there would be hardly any one of us who do not like sea, its huge and horizon touching expanse. Sea brings another world before us. Marine life reveals an amazing world. It is full of variety in sea plants, fish and different aquatic animals, about which you might have studied in your science books. In this video, we are going to learn a very beautiful poem on the world's huge aquatic creature. Yes, whales. In this poem, upon the songs of whales, we are going to see how the poet gets very much amazed by seeing the beauty of such a gorgeous creature and its different types. The poem is written by Corey McNaughton. Corey McNaughton is born on 18th May 1951. He is a British writer who specially writes for children. Trained as a graphic designer and master of arts, his poetry paints before us the exact imagery of nature. In this poem, upon the songs of whales, the poet beautifully describes various types of whales. We are going to enjoy the poem and simultaneously will understand its rhyming schemes, and then we shall turn to study other literary devices used in the poem. In the very first stanza, the poet says, "The finest singer in the sea I heard upon this morn, and in that strange sonorous tone a universe was born." On a pleasant morning, when the poet is at the sea, he listens to one of the finest singers. Its tone is quite strange. The tone is sonorous. Means it is deep and ringing voice. Listening this for the first time, the poet feels that as if a new universe has come alive. Seafarers have observed that some of the species of whales produce a beautiful song which lasts for 10 to 20 minutes. You perhaps have noticed our video has begun with different music. It was the deep humming sound of the whales. These 4 lines constitute the first stanza of the poem. Read with me the lines again. "The finest singer in the sea I heard upon this morn, and in that strange sonorous tone a universe was born." Have you noticed? The second and the fourth line end with similar sounding words morn and born. These two words with similar sounds which come at the end of these 2 lines are called rhyming words. And these 2 lines are called rhyming lines. Now dear students, to write a rhyming scheme, we should give a common alphabet to rhyming lines and different alphabets to the other lines. Suppose we take A for the first line's ending word. Then we will take B for the second line as there is no rhyme for it. Then the third line again ends with a different sounding word than earlier 2 lines. So we have to take next alphabet, that is C. Then the 4th line of the poem which ends with similar sounding word with the second line, we shall take B for the 4th line. Thus the rhyming scheme of this stanza is A, B, C, B. Now just move to the second stanza. "The low melodic wailing touched and roused me from my sleep, as the humpback lithe and languid made a turn and sounded deep." The poet says that the voice of the whales was melodic. This low wailing, that is crying, weeping voice awoke him from his sleep. This singing creature is called humpback whale. It is called humpback as it has raised area in middle. Also, it has two flippers at the end. The whale is lithe, that is supple and graceful, and it is also languid, which means not so energetic, or in other words, it is relaxed when it sings the songs. Let's again revise the lines. The low melodic wailing touched and roused me from my sleep, as the humpback lithe and languid made a turn and sounded deep. In this stanza, the ending word of second and the fourth lines rhyme. As it rhymes with each other, we shall again adopt the same rhyme scheme, that is ABCB. Dear students, I guess you have understood the rhyme scheme. So, just find out the rhyme scheme of remaining stanzas and write down in your practice copy. Now, let's see the third stanza. And as my mind awakes it turns to wells large and small, to the snowy white beluga, the canary of them all. Now the poet is fully awakened. He begins to see wells of different sizes. Some of them are large and some of them are comparatively small. The poet is amazed to see a snow white whale which is called beluga. Beluga is a Russian word for snow white color. It has beautiful and melodious voice which reminds the poet the melodious sound of canary. See here, the poet has used a figure of speech metaphor which compares two different things with something in common. Here, the snow white beluga is indirectly compared to a bright yellow canary bird because of its beautiful voice. The clicking burst of sperm whales and the California grey. The fin whale speaks across the sea to those a world away. Now, after describing small and big size of whales, snow white beluga whale, the poet describes three different whales, that is sperm whales, California grey whales and fin whales. Sperm whale is a large whale with an enormous head and the largest brain on the earth. California grey is a whale that looks like a crusty ocean rock as it is usually covered with parasites. These whales make loud cries in the sea as if they are speaking to someone who is world away, means far away from them. The short and long finned pilot whales with whistles quite complex. The striking graceful orcas speak in different dialects. In this stanza, the poet describes pilot whales. It's a new type of whale which has black skin and bulbous head. The poet finds the whistles of the pilot whales quite complex. The poet again finds the orcas, another large-toothed whales, speaking in different dialects. He says that the pilot whales are short and long-finned, whereas orcas are strikingly graceful, which speak in different dialects. Means these different whales make different voices. Now the next stanza. But it is the great blue whale that makes the loudest cry, though it is far too rare today, with such an awful white. The poet is most fascinated by the great blue whales whose cries are loudest among all the whales. The poet likes the music of the blue whales, but the poet says that it is extremely shocking that this species of blue whales is getting rare. But on this wondrous morning, I am filled with joyous glee that God has given life to whales and gave to them the sea. stanza, the poet is filled with happiness and excitement on the very special morning. He expresses his hearty thanks to the god for creating such huge wells and giving them sea to live in. In a small poem of barely 7 stanzas, the poet has described the giants of the sea and their musical voice. After understanding the poem thoroughly, we should now turn to the literary devices, which are also known as poetic devices. It is the essential tool that a poet uses to create rhythm, enhance a poem's meaning, or intensify a mood or feeling. The literary devices used in the present poem are rhyme and figures of speech. Rhymes we already have seen. In this poem, there are 2 obvious figure of speeches, metaphor and alliteration. A metaphor is a figure of speech that indirectly states the comparison between 2 or more objects having a similar quality. The example of metaphor in the poem is to the snowy white beluga, the canary of them all. This we have already discussed. It compares 2 different things with something in common. Here, the snow white beluga is compared to a bright yellow canary bird because of its beautiful voice. Alliteration is another figure of speech used in the poem. It is a term to describe a literary device in which a series of words begin with the same consonant sound. For example, the finest singer in the sea. Here, sound S gets repeated. Another example is as the humpback leads and languid. Here, sound L gets repeated. Dear students, you also have to find some examples of metaphor and alliteration and write down in your practice copy. Hope you have understood the poem, its rhyme scheme and its literary devices. Keep reading and stay focused. Thank you. Have a nice day.